Yeah, I love conspiracy theories, but this shit is getting out of hand. There's a new insane conspiracy every single day, just some wacky, goofy shit. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fucking group on Twitter that thinks Reptar cereal is the instrument of Hillary Clinton to brainwash children into worshiping the devil or some garbage. You see it all over the internet every single day with these people that like to think that they're so special and intellectually enlightened that they have opened their third, fourth, and fifth eye. They've awakened their Sharingan and now they're seeing the truth behind everything. There's nothing wrong with questioning things. It's extremely healthy and extremely important to do, but when you question every single thing ever and discredit science and come up with some actual diarrhea dog shit, maybe you're the crazy person. Like, you have people saying, water's evil. In fact, we've been lied to all our lives. The human body doesn't require water. In fact, water was cursed by Bill Gates over 3 millennia ago, and we're not even drinking water. We're drinking a mind control potion that Bill Gates has got to us. In fact, the only fluid we should be consuming is a Diet Coke via enema. Please join me, enlightened brothers, and you'll have like 50,000 people on that Facebook page that all agree with that. It's just crazy shit. Like the Wayfair conspiracy is another big one where everyone said they were human trafficking people in fucking wardrobes and shit and pillows. It's actual nonsense, but everyone likes to think that they're seeing the truth, which is what makes conspiracies so appealing. And once you get ingrained in a conspiracy, once you start believing in it, you're never going to change that belief, or at least the majority of people don't. Like flat earthers, for example. Flat earthers are like Looney Tunes villains that can't do anything fucking right to support their point. Flat earthers in their own documentaries have proven themselves wrong multiple times and then just throw that away. Like in the end of the most recent documentary I can think of on flat earthers, they proved the earth is round with their own experiment and they said, huh, that's interesting. Must have done something wrong. Even doing their own experiment perfectly correct and proving the earth was round, they just said, no, it's still flat, even though this proved it was round with our own science. You can't convince people of these things because they just don't want to believe it. They'd rather stay believing in some garbage to make themselves still feel like they're special. Like people that think the moon is fake, you could literally fly them to the moon and they would say it doesn't exist. They'd say you drug them and just put them in Nevada on a CGI set or something. No matter how many times and how thoroughly these awful conspiracies get debunked, people are always going to believe them. It is what it is, so now I just kind of enjoy the chaos of it all, and there's been some absolute bangers when it comes to bullshit conspiracies recently, like spirit cooking is a really good one. There's also a wild one about the tablets of Thoth being used to resurrect an ancient deity from the underworld who's going to rise and exterminate Earth for its sin. Another really cool one I've been into is that Atlantis is real, and the previous god of Atlantis is very upset with the state of the world, so to get back at us, he started cloning celebrities. I don't know how exactly that, punishes us to just clone celebrities, but apparently that's what the god of Atlantis is doing, according to a bunch of people. It's just some really fucking incredible stuff. Like, these conspiracies make Sonic the Hedgehog fan fiction sound sane. And when I mention conspiracies like this, it's not like one person who's having some kind of bad acid trip and writing this shit down in some kind of journal. It's communities of people that believe this. I'm deep into conspiracy Facebook groups and stuff, just kind of reading about all of it and getting a little bit of a giggle out of it. But admittedly, it is sad to see people genuinely believe some of these things and be fearful of this boogeyman who's coming from like the 12th dimension as a time-traveling pedophile to steal away people's families or something. It is sad to see people kind of believe these things and act so out of fear online about shit that absolutely isn't true at all. But that being said, I thought it'd be fun to add some fuel to this fire here, and I'll bring up a conspiracy that I believe in. I'm sure some of you might remember this. Berenstain versus Berenstain Bears. I made a video on this a few years back, kind of blowing this shit wide open and spreading the cheeks of this conspiracy to get into the meat of it. And I think it's time in the current climate of things, we reopen this one. We gotta open this wound up again and pour some salt on it and figure out what the fuck is going on. So to break down the Berenstain versus Berenstain Bears conspiracy, growing up, there was a very popular book series called the Berenstain Bears. Or at least that's what the government and the reality puppeteers would have you believe. What I remember growing up, having written reports on this book series, was it was always called the Berenstain Bears. And the majority of people in my age range, 25 years old, also remember it as Berenstain Bears. However, if you check the so-called official records and the history of this planet, you'll realize that it's never been called the Berenstain Bears. It's always been Berenstain. There wasn't some kind of rebranding from Steen to Stain. It has always existed as the Berenstain Bears. When I learned about this, I went back through all of my Berenstain Bears books to see for proof. Look, it was called Berenstain, only to realize in shock and horror that my once authentic Berenstain Bears books had been subtly changed to Berenstain. As if some kind of adjustment bureau, some kind of, legion of tooth fairies or something came in when I wasn't looking and they very subtly changed the name to Stain over Steen. Semi-chubbed and in a panic, I began searching throughout the entire internet for proof that it was once Berenstain Bears in this corporeal dimension we inhabit. However, everything points to the fact that it was always Berenstain Bears. So then what's the explanation? Well, most people chalk this up to the Mandela effect. For those that don't know, the Mandela effect is when a large group of people remember events differently than they actually occurred. Basically, it's just a large group of people that misremember something, and oftentimes when faced with the truth, people say the truth is wrong because they have these vivid memories that don't match up with it. And yes, memories aren't the most reliable source when it comes to figuring out what's real and what actually happened. However, in this case, fuck you. I am not wrong. You can hold my nutsack in your goddamn mouth. It was definitely Berenstain Bears at some point over the last 25 years. Like I said, I used to write reports on these goddamn things, and I used to write it as Berenstain Bears, because I didn't know what the fuck steen was, but I knew what a stain was, obviously, because I was fucking staining my diapers with fucking shit constantly, so I knew what a stain was. So I'd write Berenstain, only to lose points on my reports, teachers just fucking scratching it out. Charlie, you're never gonna make it in college with this kind of garbage. Because they said it's not Stain, it's Steen, so I'd lose points, and then I got it really fucking ingrained in me that it's Berenstain instead of Stain. So this has like a personal connection with me. I fucking know it. I still believe it. And so, what is the other explanation? Well, a lot of highly intellectual truth seekers believe that at some point in the last 25 years, the multiverse has collapsed in on itself. So the multiverse theory suggests there's infinite number of universes, and at some point in the last 25 years, our Berenstain timeline collapsed on top of the Berenstain timeline, causing subtle changes in the two as we transformed into this Autobot of disappointment. And that's why we're left with Berenstain instead of Steen, and only some of us remember it as Steen instead of Stain. The chosen few, the cream of the crop that remember it as Berenstain. So there's a fun little conspiracy to play around with, I think. Hey, that one's got some meat to it, I will say. The Berenstain versus Berenstain one that one's near and dear to my boners. Like, that shit, I think, is really weird. Because, like I said, I really do remember getting points off for writing Stain, because I thought it was Berenstain as a kid, but I was told it was Berenstain. And I wish I could find those reports, but obviously I don't have homework from 20 years ago. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. See ya.